Okay. So what what we will see is serverless. Okay. So anyone of you know about serverless already? So anyone of you have knowledge about serverless? What is serverless? Not Serverless is a generic term. It's not related to AWS. So any idea what is serverless, or you have worked with serverless before? Anyone? Okay, I see only three people here. Yes, I join or not? Right. Okay, it's fine. So let's talk about serverless. So what is serverless, right? So serverless, as you as the name suggests, is something that doesn't have a server, right? So let's see, where do you need server? Okay. So whenever you run an application, okay, what do you do? So you have a piece of code. Like you have a piece of code. This is your code, right? Yeah, this is your application code.
मम्मी के अंदर है क्या बच्चे? मम्मी जी, मशीन वापस देखी क्या? तो कपड़े वो एक बार देखो सूख के क्या हुए?
Radha, I think you are somewhere else. Okay, so you have a piece of code here. Okay, some code here. Okay, and to run this code, you need some machine, right? You need obviously when you want to run some code, maybe it is a Node.js, okay, or a Python script, right? You need a machine where you can run this code. Okay, so if you want to run this code on your laptop, like if you have a laptop, so you can just go and install. If you want to know, let's say it's a Node.js application, right? It's Node.js code. So what you do is you install Node.js here. So you will install Node.js, right? Node.js uh, binaries, right? Like npm, or so to run Node.js, you need npm, node. These two binaries you need to run, right? And if your application run on Linux machine only, and you have Windows machine, then you will create a VM, right? Virtual machine, virtual machine for Linux, right? Or if your application is a container-based application, you will install Docker, right? To run Docker, to run container application, you need a Docker. Okay. So what you are doing this is you are doing a preparation to run a code, right? Prepare for running code. Okay. Right. So all this preparation you have to do when you want to run a code. Okay. And so with this, right, what you're doing is, so this is on your laptop, right? But how do you run this in AWS? Okay. And any guesses? Like, can you just guide me to, AWS service, right? I want to run an application on in AWS. What do I need to do? What option I have? Okay. Any idea? So I have Node.js application, Node.js app on AWS. Okay, how do I deploy it? How can I run? How can I run that? Any guesses? Like, can you just give me a quick idea of how you can run an application on AWS? So, what do you need to run an application? If you are given a Node.js application, okay, and you are a AWS engineer, what you will do? It is just so like so discussion. This is a kind of discussion. You might have different thought process. Or you will have you have seen many services, right? Have you heard like have you tried EC2 services? Did you create EC2 instances? So okay. So how can I run an application? I can run EC2 EC on EC2 machines. Okay, I can create a EC2 instance. Let's take it as EC2 instance. Create a VM. Create a EC2 instance. Okay, and I will say it will be a Linux machine. Okay, everyone like you are able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, do you hear me, everyone?
Yes.
Hmm, can I get a confirmation from any one of you? Like if you are able to hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm not able to hear you. Can you try once again? Lalit.
Yeah, you're audible. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, now I can hear you. I thought I was not able to hear you. Okay, so how do you run an application in AWS? So one way, like there are many ways you can deploy an application. Okay, one way is you create a machine. It's simplest one. Okay, you create a EC2 machine. Okay, and what is the next step? You install required software, right? For Node.js application, Node, npm, maybe patches you want to apply, right? Okay. Once you install this, you copy the code on in a folder, okay, and run the node command, okay, for your application. Okay, so this is a simple process. So for this, what you have done is you created a EC2 machine. Okay, it's a EC2 or a virtual machine, and in that machine you install the required software and you created a folder and you run the commands. Okay, so once you run this, once you follow these steps, your application is up and running, and you can access this using ping send to back. Perfect. So this is your application. These are the steps you need to perform to run your application. Okay, so what happened here, right? So this machine, when you create, right, you need to specify how many RAM it will use. Okay, so let's say 2 GB RAM you have given for your application. Okay, you will also specify how many GB of hard disk you will attach to it. So let's say 30 GB of hard disk you want to use it, right? When you create a VM, you also say how much CPU you want. So let's say one CPU for now. Okay, just an example here. It will I mean, for some application, one CPU is not enough. So this is the spec. This is the specification of your EC2 machine. Okay, so this is your EC2 machine. It has some specifications. Okay, let me look it right. So when you run a EC2 instance in AWS, okay, so your application is running fine. Now your application can be accessed using let's say API dot my app dot let's say cop. So this is the URL. Okay, whenever a person, okay, a person like me, I wanted to access this. I will go to this URL. This URL will be pointing to this. Okay, so in your AWS instance. Okay, so whenever the time when you run this command, okay, your website is your application is live, I can access this URL. Okay, so this URL I can access and get the output on browser. Okay, so 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 what are you built for here? Okay, so in AWS, okay, so you are built for the time your EC2 instance is up. Okay, so till the time when you want to access your application, okay, so this user, right, he will be accessing it and then he will be leaving, right? He want to access this application, he won't be there for 24 hours, he won't be visiting this application for 24 hours. So most of the time, okay, when this user is not there, your EC2 instance will still be running, right? So you will be cost uh, for the time when your application is not accessed. Okay, it is not like it's not like that when your application is not accessed, AWS will not charge you. AWS will charge you as long as your EC2 machine is running. Okay, so so let's say it's like 0.20 $0.20 per hour. Okay, okay, for that means like in a day you will be cost like for 10 hours it will be cost like $2. Okay, $2 for 10 hours. And you make some arrangement that after 10 hours the machine will go down and it will come again in the next day. So you make some arrangement to reduce the cost. So $2 every day, and then it will make like $60 per month for this machine. Okay, so to run this piece of code, okay, to run this piece of code, to run this piece of code that you have created here, okay, you will be billed for $60 in a month. Okay, $60 in a month. $60. Okay. So what is problem here? Okay, so one of the main problem is you are charged for the time when your application is not accessed by the users. Okay, so there may be other user here, he will be accessing this, okay, to access this. There will be other user here, they will be accessing this, but not 100% of the time, right? Your website is not very famous in the initial time, right? So you will be accessing it for like 1 hour or 2 hour daily. Okay, for rest of the time like 24 hours. Okay, for rest of the 22 hours the website is not being accessed, so you will still be charged for it. Okay, and again you need to decide to this specification yourself. Okay, you need to decide this specification by yourself. Okay, so you need to make this arrangement. Okay, okay, so what happens when your load increases? Okay, what happens when your load increases on website? Okay, because you created only one instance. Okay, and now your website is famous, they are accessed by many people. Okay, so there are people here, there are people here, there are people here, they are accessing your website. Now your load increases on your website and you see the website is slow, right? So what you do is you increase the capacity of your instance, okay, by making it like 4 GB or making it double, right? Making it double, 30 GB. Okay, and yeah, space is not, so you increase the CPU as well, okay, to make sure that the CPU is enough there. Okay, so you make this arrangement yourself by checking that the traffic is going up. Okay, and you need to make sure your application is running at the same speed as it was before. Okay, so you increase this capacity and now you will be build more for the new specification. Okay, so this is fine. So anyone of you can tell me so what way you can do this automatically? Okay, so you increase the RAM, CPU, and RAM, CPU, and gigabyte, these specification you increase by yourself, right? Is there a service in AWS that does it by automatically? Do you happen to know any service that does this automatically? I mean, what happens? Is there any service that help you to increase capacity of the infrastructure on the basis of the request? Anyone of you? Like, can you please tell me what service that I can use to increase the capacity of application? It's like there is one service that decide here, and based on the number of requests, it will increase the capacity of your application. So have you heard of ASG, auto scaling group? ASG, auto scaling group, right? You define templates. You defined the thresholds. Okay. So what does ASG do? This is another service in AWS, okay, which will increase the capacity of your application based on the number, based on thresholds. Okay, so you define threshold, right? If the CPU goes 80% above, it will spin up another instance. Okay, so when the traffic is high, it will create one more instance of your application. Okay, same instance of the application, and both will take the load. Okay, so the request will, some of the requests will go here. Okay, some of the requests will go here. So in this is the CPU will, simple consumption will go down. Okay, on one instance. So this is done by auto scaling, but again, this arrangement you have to create. Okay, so you have to do all this thing yourself. You have to define how to do auto scaling, how to do what template to use, which platform to use, what is the secure, all this, and you have to define the threshold yourself. Okay. And again, when you do this, you are billed for ASD as well. Okay. So now when you when the request is high, maybe you have $60 for this new instance. Okay, plus the auto scaling group. Okay, so they are minimal, but they are still be charged like, let's say $10. Okay, so your overall cost goes up when your request goes up. Okay, and the time when the requests are down. Okay, so your auto scaling group will delete this, but again, this instance will still be running. Okay, so you will be charged not this, but $60. Okay, so you see here we have a server all the time running for your application. Okay, but your application is doesn't need to be online all the time because your requests are not coming all the time. Okay, so what you can do here to reduce cost, okay, or to make your infrastructure more uh, uh, I mean, it can tackle scaling and error handling. So you can use serverless computing in AWS. Okay. So what is what happens in serverless is, so the only thing that you need in serverless is your code. Okay. So you take out your code. So this is your code. Okay. So you provide AWS this code. Okay. And you say, hey, run this code. Okay, run this code with, let me bring this here. Okay. So you provide this is your application code. Okay, your code here. Okay, and you tell AWS run this code with Node.js. Okay? Node.js runtime. So you define the runtime. Okay, when and you provide the code, AWS will create an infrastructure. Okay, AWS will create the infrastructure by itself, and it will run your code in some hidden platform. Okay, so you don't. So there may be a fleet of servers with AWS. Okay, that you don't need to worry about. Why it is something like this? Okay, so AWS has their own fleet of servers. Okay, that it used for is internal infrastructure. Okay, these servers are idle most of the time. Okay, so they decided to go with a serverless architecture. So in a serverless architecture, you provide only code to AWS, and AWS will run this code, okay, in some location, okay, which is hidden to you, maybe this server, okay, and it returns the output to you. Okay, it returns the output to you. Okay, or whatever code you're doing, it will do that thing, okay, and exit. Okay, so what happens here is your code start, okay, it starts running, okay, it executes here, okay, and it stops here. Okay, so the duration your code is running, okay, let's say your code runs for 20 seconds. Okay, so that is very high, right? So somebody is accessing api.myapp.com, okay, and when a user invokes this API, okay, when a user invokes this API, he goes, so the code is sent to AWS serverless architecture, okay, and the output is sent back to user, whatever output is sent by the AWS serverless infrastructure. Okay, so only so when you use this kind of services, we will talk about one of the services that is serverless. Here, you will only be billed for the time your application code is running. Okay, let's say this is like 5 seconds. Okay, your application code runs for requires only 5 seconds to complete to serve the request. Okay, so you will be billed for 5 seconds of computing. Okay, and I can show you. I will show you how much time. How much is the cost of running a serverless architecture. Okay, so you're billed for the time you run your code. Okay, not the infrastructure. Okay, so you will not be charged when your code is not executing. Okay, so if this API is not in use, you will be charged $0. Okay, only when there are people using your your API, they will be charged for this. Okay, and now let's consider the scenario when there is a lot of requests here. Okay, so when there are a lot of requests, right, for your code, okay, this is your code, right? So your code is idle right now. Okay, when the request come, then only it executes. Okay, so in the case of multiple requests, the same infrastructure will copy this code, okay, on multiple machines. Okay, so it will create a copy of your code on multiple machine so that they can run independently. Okay, just consider them as a container running in a container environment. Okay, so this may be a container environment, this can be a virtual machine, this can be like a big server handling your request, and I mean running your code, right? So it's like AWS is giving you a hidden infrastructure where you can run your code. Okay, so and you don't need to worry about what infrastructure is that. Okay? So at the time of a high request, it will create a high number of like your code will be copied to many places, and they all finishes in the same time, where same time as is like one request is being served, right? So if one request is served in 5 seconds, 1,000 requests will also be served in 5 seconds. They will not take more time. Okay, if this request is high, it will not take more time, it will still be 5 seconds only. So you see the kind of change, kind of scalability when you use a serverless architecture. Okay, so we'll see this in a demo, how to create a serverless code, okay, and how to run this code into AWS infrastructure. So we have one service called actually not one service, there are many services which implements uh, serverless. Okay, so one of the service in AWS is Lambda. Okay, so Lambda, AWS Lambda is a platform where you can run your application code. Okay, so AWS Lambda is for application code. Okay, so there is another one. Sorry for the spell mistake. AWS Lambda. AWS Lambda for application code. There is one service for database, so you can Dynamo. Okay, so DynamoDB is another serverless computing provided by AWS, and this is used for your database purpose. Okay, so what do you do in databases, right? You create tables, you store data into tables, right? So DynamoDB help you to store your tables. You can create tables, you can store your data without having a proper database instance. Okay? You just need to create a DynamoDB resource, okay, and underneath it will use some kind of database which is not known to you. Okay, but you will be given an interface where you can see your tables, you can enter data, you can retrieve data without creating a real instance. Okay, so you just go and there create a table. That's it. Okay, so you don't need to create how much what database I need to use. Either I need to use MySQL, MongoDB, or you need to use Postgres, right? So all this database you don't need to worry about. You can just go and create a resource, and you can start using creating tables and all those things. Okay, so DynamoDB is a database service. The other one is API services in AWS. Okay, and for API service we have API gateway. So API gateway is kind of a proxy service. Okay, okay, and in the real world, if you want to use a proxy service, you will be using Nginx, Apache, or HTTPD. These are the software that provide proxy services. Okay, and AWS, you don't need to install any one of them, any of them. You can use API gateway, which also is a serverless computing. Like you don't need to set up anything. When you create a API gateway, it will give you option to specify where you want to put your application, where you want to proxy your application code. Okay, so it gives you a URL. When you access that URL, you will be routed to the required application in AWS. Okay? So these three services, okay, are the major serverless services in AWS. Okay, and similar thing you will find in other clouds. Okay, GCP also have same thing. Cloud Run is like not Cloud Run. Okay, so Cloud Run is kind of a serverless computing which is based on container and container technology in GCP. Okay, so similar thing exists in AWS and Azure. So every cloud has their own serverless computing services. AWS has these three majorly, and there are many other getting added every year. Okay, so let's try to see how we can use AWS Lambda and API gateway to set up a Node.js application that will be your API, like it's a REST API we will create using our Node.js. Okay. Any question till here? Like, do you have any question for me till here? Did you understand the concept of I just wanted to know if you understand the concept of serverless, okay, because this is more important. Any question for me here? So silence. Okay. No issues. We don't have any question. It's fine. Okay, so let's see serverless in action. I will go to AWS console. Okay. So if you have any question, just let me know. I'll try to answer. Sign into console. Okay. And one more thing, there's a there's an awesome day coming from AWS. And if you are interested to know services, this is a master class which covers cloud computing. Okay, and it tells you what all services we have in AWS, and any new services they announce, they will also showcase here. Okay, so this is a 3-hour event, and it's a very esteemed event if you want to know more about AWS. Okay, so if you have time, if you get time, you can join this conference. It is free of cost. You just need to register, and it is an online conference. So you just open your laptop or start it or just hear it, what services they have for you. So whatever we have covered, they will cover like these are the services. They don't do hands-on, but they will tell you that these are the services available in AWS or any new services that they will be launching. Okay, so let me log into the console. Okay, there is like that. That is it. Okay, here I can just open. I copy this URL, go to this website. I'm logging here. So I'll give you this link, copy link, so that you can check it out. Okay. So go and register for this and feel free to watch it. Okay, I'm here. So let's see how you can so in the search bar, you can go for Lambda. Okay, I'll click here. Okay, and I'll show you how to create a Lambda and how to access your application via Lambda function. Okay, so there are few terminologies here. Okay, AWS Lambda. Make it black and let me large. Okay, let me make it like here. I'll just make this. Okay, so in Lambda, AWS Lambda, okay, there is a term called function. Okay, so the function is nothing but your application code. So whatever you want to run, okay, whatever application code you want to run, it can be one file, it can be multiple file, okay, it can include dependencies, okay, it can include it can have layers as well. Okay, so anything that is required to run your application code, and your application code itself is called Lambda function. Okay, so whatever this AWS Lambda will run, it is running your Lambda function. Okay, so when you create a resource, you create a function. Okay, so let's create a function from scratch. Okay, and I just let's see. Okay, let's create a function now. Okay, so you can use there are 3 options here. You can author from scratch, like we will create this function from scratch. Okay, we will use a sample code. We'll put it into we'll see what information we have. You can use a blueprint as well. Okay, so there are hello world functions available. There are microservice with DynamoDB. Okay, there are so these are stack, like full stack, right? 3-tier application, 2-tier application. You want to interact with SG object only. Okay, so these are the ready-made template. Okay, so you can say hello world function in Node.js, hello world function in Python 3.12, HTTP respond header. Like, so Lambda function can be used for a variety of things. Okay, not just running your application. It can also be used to filter out the request landing onto your AWS application. So you have an application running in AWS. You want to filter out all the requests coming from, let's say, you want to block Africa, right? You don't want to serve any request from Africa. So you can have a Lambda function in front of your application, and that will remove all the requests that are coming from Africa IP ranges. Okay, so that is also one of the use case of Lambda. But okay, we are not going there. It's like the big world. So these are the blueprint available. The blueprint have templates. Okay, ready-made templates for all the or the kind of thing Lambda can do. Okay. So it has machine learning as well. You see Lexus here, right? You can also use for SQS. You can also use for mining. You don't use for mining, but you can use for you see natural language processing. You can use for that as well. Okay, so if you want to create a AI, you can use Lambda. Third of the option is container image. You can run a container image. Okay, so you decide a container image. Okay, your image will have some code that your application runs, or maybe it's a batch job that will just run something, update a database, or just retrieve database content and send it to you, or it performs some backup. Okay, so that is container image. So you can decide. You can also use a container image. For us, for us, like we will use author from scratch, and I will make it like Node.js. Okay, so I will say quote of the day. Okay, so this is my function. Okay, this is my function name. So what this function do is, okay, it will just return you the quote of the day. Okay, so I'll say this application. This is my favorite application. I create this application in every class. So this application returns the code from based on the date. Okay, it's like you receive a daily code from this application. So it will, when you query this application, it will return you a code. Okay. So we'll create this application. This is my application. This is my function name. Here I choose what platform I have written. Right. So if you are a Java, you have your application is a Java application. You can use Java. You can use Node. You can use Python. There are multiple version of Python, multiple version of Node supported here. .NET is an option here. Ruby is an option here. Okay. So you see all the options are available here. Okay. And if you want to use generic, you can use Amazon Linux as well. Okay. You choose architecture. Okay. If your application supports, like if your application is a mobile application, you can use ARM64. Otherwise, x64 is good for all. Okay. That's it. You don't do anything else. You just click on create function. Okay. And this will create a function, okay, with a sample code. Right, it will give you a sample code. So once you create Lambda function, okay, you will see something like this. Okay, it says there is a Lambda function called quote of the day. Okay, and at the bottom you will see there is a code here. Okay, this is the code here. Okay, and when you run this, okay, you can just pass some event. Let's say test event. Save it. Okay, so this is my application code. I'll just click on test. It will run. Okay, and so you see it is running the code here, and it says hello from Lambda. Okay, so this is the output. So what I did here is I run this Lambda function. It executed for some time, and it says hello world to me. Okay, so because if you see this code, right, what it does is it just returns a response saying hello from Lambda. So it's a JSON, it returns a JSON string. Okay, so I can also do this code of the day. Okay, so let me replace this. When I test it, okay, so so I change this code here. Okay, and now when you change your code, you have to save this code. Okay, so in terms of Lambda, to save the code is like deploy the code. So I'll just click on deploy, and now this code is saved. And when I test it, I will see code of the day here. Okay, simple. Like this is your code. So you in real thing, you will have a bigger code, not this small code, or you will have some kind of script or some kind of batch logic here to do some useful thing. Okay, for me, I'm just sending it the code of the day. Okay, so here this is like a Node.js application. Now how do I run this? So you see here, right, this code of the day application is here. Okay, It runs the code of the day. This is the code here, and how a third person can access it. Okay, and we will make a arrangement for that. So this is running in Lambda. Okay, so the Lambda function is here. Okay, your Lambda function. I'll just call it Lambda fn. Okay, and you have passed this code to this. Okay, now if any person want to access it, he need to invoke this Lambda. Okay, so how do you invoke the Lambda? To invoke a Lambda, you need a trigger. Okay, this person cannot go. You cannot go to AWS and click test all the time, right? This is not very friendly way. So you need a trigger to run the Lambda function. Okay, and how do you do that? You do that by applying a trigger. So I'll show you what is a trigger. Okay, so a trigger, there are multiple triggers that you can use with the Lambda, and you can add it by clicking on add trigger here. So when you click on add trigger, okay, there and you will see the options here. Okay, so now you see some familiar option, right? Alexa. How many of you have used Alexa?
Yes.
You have. Okay, Anuradha, right? You have used Alexa. So how many of you have used IoT applications, like other, like maybe I don't know, I never use Alexa or any other device. Okay, so there are many things that you can use. AWS IoT is there, logs are there, S3 are there, right? So you put some file in S3. Okay, consider a thing like somebody upload a picture. Okay, let's say you are using an application. Okay, you upload a picture into that application. Okay, that goes into S3 bucket. Okay, now that application requires the picture to be modified in some way, right? Make some funny funny animation out of that picture, right? So you know that platform, right? Photos, Google Photos. When you upload, when a photo goes into Google Photos, in the background it does something and give you some animated uh, animated uh, uh, movie out of those picture, right? So so how does this happen? So in this the kind of thing what happen is you upload the pictures there, um, okay, and at the background there is a Lambda function getting invoked. Okay, whenever a new picture goes, there is a Lambda function is invoked. Lambda function creates some a magic out of those photos and save a movie into the S3 bucket, and that movie is shown to your photos application. Okay? So this is what happening here. So but so how do you so this is one of the triggers. So you upload some files in S3 and they will trigger the Lambda function. Okay, so there are many triggers here. We will use API gateway. Okay, so this is one of the way you can use, but you can also integrate Alexa with it. I'll click on API gateway. Okay, I don't have any new existing, so I'll use a create new API. It's a HTTP API. I can use REST API as well. Okay, but like I don't want to control request and all. So I'll just use HTTP API and this is fine. I don't need to add anything else. Let's do add here. Let's go. What is the error? Okay. Let's say open. Okay, security open. So I don't need to use any like you can use also username password here, but for now let's create an open API. Okay. All right. So now when I created a trigger, now you see there is a trigger here and it can trigger the Lambda function and you can get the API endpoint from this. So I copy this here. I'll copy this here. Okay. And I paste it here. And you will see our output here. You see code of the day here. Okay. So how does this game, like what is happening when you fire this URL? Okay, and I will paste this URL on your in the group so that you can also try it. Okay, so this is not like not running on my system. This is not running on some hidden system. This is a Lambda function that you are invoking. Okay, so whenever you are running this this URL, okay, it invokes Lambda function. Okay? So this Lambda function this code is getting invoked whenever you are accessing this URL. Okay, so you can also try that, and let's see how you can. Fine, like this is fine. I don't know what this is. Okay, so I can go to so I can see how many times this Lambda is invoked by going to monitor. Okay, and you can see here who and where it was invoked and what was the output. Okay, so here in the matrix it is still not available. After some time it will get updated. Okay, now you see there are invocations here. So we have like the function run for 4.7 millisecond. So you will be charged for 4.34 millisecond. Okay, so as your website get more attention, okay, your duration will remain same, but the total run time of your application will increase. Okay, um, and I'll give you an idea how much is the cost of uh, the per second per invocation cost, right? We saw it's a per invocation cost. Okay, so here you see there are two counts here, two people invoked here. Okay, if you try to browse this count will increase. Okay, and you can see after some time you can see the very nice graph here that will show you how your application behaved over the time. Okay, so you can see what time is the peak hour for your Lambda function, what time people are not using it. Okay, so you can do all this analysis from this monitor page. But anyway, that is not a concern here. The main thing is you are able to access this Lambda function using this URL. Okay, so this is the API. This is the API URL. Okay, so what did you do to have to create this round, right? So to access this one, okay, so to create this URL, you just went on click add trigger, right? So this is the API gateway you created. In when you do this configuration by yourself by like creating setting up all this link, right? Server, the Nginx proxy, then you edit the configurations. Okay, so all this thing is the headache. But here API gateway, just with a single click, you got a API URL. Okay, and to do this in a server full area, like a full world, you have to do a lot of configuration. Here you get it with a single click. Okay, so any question here, like how this is working, how Lambda is working? Okay, I think most of you are enjoying rain. Okay, so fine. So we have it here. Lambda function is getting triggered. Let's do something useful. Okay. So I'll just update this Lambda function to be more useful. Okay. So I have a GitHub repository for this. Okay, code of the day. And I will just search for code of the day. I never get this in the first one. I'll go to DevOps Farm projects, website. Okay. Post. I'm just looking for code of the day. Not here. I'm just looking for the code that I run somewhere. Let me just search for it. Code. No. Code. And I search for this. There was some projects.
Seriously. I lost it. Okay. So let me just create it now. Okay, I can use ChatGPT as well to create this. Okay, so so here what I can do is I can leverage ChatGPT, and you can see how can I make the this Lambda function more fun. Okay, so I'll just open ChatGPT here, and I'll tell ChatGPT to give me Node.js Lambda for code of the day. Okay, so when you do this, give you a Lambda function, but it will give you some additional information which are like not very good. So I just need a Lambda function. Now you see it is giving me some code here. Okay, so while it is writing it here, I'll show you one important thing, which is very much required when you create a Lambda function. So Lambda function, when you create, there must be a entry point. Okay, so you must be so when you run an application code, right, you will create a main.js, or you will create main.java if you are a Java developer, or main.py when you are Python developer. So you run that application, that script, right? But when you're running Lambda, you're not specifying which file. So there may be multiple files here. Okay, so you can add more files here. Okay, let's say this is a new file, and this file is like a main.js, right? Main.mjs. I don't know. So this is like print something and look. Okay. So you can save this, save, and you need to save main.js. Fine. Okay. So you create a file here, but when you run Lambda, it will always invoke index.js. And how does it knows about what I need to run? It knows about the properties of your Lambda function. Okay, so in the property of the Lambda function, you defined runtime, if you remember, right? And in the runtime, there is a handler here. Okay, so in the handler, it knows I need to open an index file. Okay, and there is a function in index file called handler. Okay, so it need to run index.handler function whenever you are invoking Lambda. Okay, so if you open index.js, there's a there's a constraint here, handler, which is a function. Okay, and this is the function it runs. So it runs this handler in the function that you have provided. Okay, from this handler you can always invoke main.js or other function by importing them here. Okay, you can import main.js. Okay, I'm not a Node.js developer, but you can import like main here, and then from the main function, you can in the main script, you can define more function that will do some useful stuffs. Okay, so that is also thing. So you need to remember that there is a handler option available in the Lambda, which you can use to define the entry point to your function. Okay, fine. So so let me copy this code. Okay, and let me paste it here. Okay, and I'll delete this. I don't need this. And let me deploy this. Okay, so here what it does is there are 4 codes here. Okay, so in my real application that I'm not able to find, there are like 365 code. So based on the day, it will send you the code. Okay, let me deploy this. Okay, and once you deploy this application and you refresh, you try to search for it, you will get a new code if the code is running fine. Okay, it says internal server error. Okay, so let's see why there is a error here. Okay, again I can go to logs here. You can also see logs for your application by going to CloudWatch logs. Okay. I can also do a test here to see what is happening with my application. Okay. So I tested, started, and if there's any error, I will see error here as well. Exports is not defined in ES model scope. Okay. So let's open the code. Okay, so I think it did not export. Okay. I can give this error to Lambda and it will make the changes. Execution. Error exports are not found. Okay, so this will make changes and I know what is that. Okay, so I can just take a sample code here, create a function again, and let me just create a function x5, and this will give me the actual code that can run in Node.js 20. Okay, so while it is spinning up, I'll just go here and open this one, and I say const here. Okay, and I can just load this function. I just need to do like this, and all right. So if I test it now, because I need to deploy, test it. Okay, perfect. Now it is working. And if I just do it here again, I will see the code here. Okay, so I just updated Lambda function. Okay, I just updated my application. Okay, so in my term, this is my application code, and what I did is I just updated this code. Okay, I didn't specify where to run, how much RAM, how much resources I need for this, how much time I need to deploy it. So I just went to the Lambda function in AWS. I updated the code, and now I can see my application is returning new new code, right? Whenever you refresh, you see a new code is being sent. Okay, so this is one of the like thing that you can do with Lambda. Okay, it's not, Lambda is not limited to running your application code. You can also use this Lambda to filter out request. Okay, so what Lambda can be used is Lambda can be used for. So if you see the Lambda AWS Lambda use cases, okay, so you will know what Lambda can do. Okay, so here you can, Lambda can be used for file processing. Okay, just like I showed you, right? You upload a image in your application, image goes to S3, and that whenever a new file came into S3, the Lambda will be invoked and it will do some processing on your files. So this is like file processing, automated file processing you can do with Lambda. Okay, data and analytics. Okay, so you know that whenever you go to google.com, you search for something, or you go to AWS, like amazon.com, you search for some product. Okay, you try to buy some product, and in all the other website, okay, you will keep seeing those ads, right? What is this? So there is a Lambda function keep analyzing your data. Okay, so so that AWS, right, it sends data to the analytics platform. Okay, and they show this data into your feeds. Okay, so this is how your feeds works. So people have created the complete website in Lambda. Okay, so you know there's a static code. This is the static code. This code doesn't change much until you go and update it. So this is the static code. People have created website full website using Lambda. Okay, and you know that when you use Lambda function, you're not getting cost for when it is not being accessed. Okay, and that thing we will also see in a moment. It is also used for mobile application. Okay, so suppose you have a custom mobile application and it generates some events, right? So you click it here and it sends like you send a message from your application, like about WhatsApp, right? So whenever a WhatsApp message is sent, it says which mobile it want to send it, and then the Lambda, there will be a Lambda in the middle, and it will reroute it to the server that are there. Okay, so you can create a Lambda that process events. Okay, one of the major use case of Lambda is your microservice architecture or event driven architecture. So whenever there is an event, some action will happen. Okay, so Lambdas are are a major is a big is a part of a event driven architecture. Whenever you, so in short, it is called EDA architecture. Okay, so when you work with event driven architecture or serverless, so something, this is the one of the service that you can leverage in AWS. Okay, so yeah, so that was what I wanted to cover today. Lambda function, it was the last piece we wanted to cover. There are many things, like there are 250 plus services in AWS. Okay, I haven't used most of them. I only used the one that are that I need. Okay, so there are services for gaming. Okay, so people who do a lot of gaming, right? They don't. So if they don't want to buy PS4 or Xbox, they can. There is a platform on Amazon where they can play Xbox and PS4 games. So there's a platform for them as well. If you are a machine learning guy, so there's a machine learning person. So there is a platform for machine learning as well. If you want to do a big data query, so there's a service for that as well. Okay, so most of the thing is related to your field. So if you find that I need something for this, there will be a service for AWS. Okay, but it's like almost impossible to cover all the services in AWS. So we covered basic services, compute services, storage services, database services, and serverless architecture. Okay, and if you are interested, you can join this awesome day conference. Okay, I always join this every year. Okay, and it gives me a new some good insight into what is going on AWS on AWS cloud. Okay, so yeah, so that was from the Lambda the serverless perspective. We covered API gateway and Lambda. Okay, we didn't cover DynamoDB, but that is a similar concept. You can fetch these codes from DynamoDB. Like you put all this code into DynamoDB, you do a DB query here, and you can get it. So it will create a 3-tier application. You have a front end from API gateway. You have a Lambda function that process your request, and there is a database at the backend. So without using any server, okay, you didn't create any server here. Without using any server, you were able to create a 3-tier application. Okay, if you use a Dynamo. So here it is only 2-tier application, but you can do a 3-tier application as well. Okay, so the last thing that I want to cover is the cost part of this Lambda. Okay, and you will see cost of Lambda function. Okay, so I go to AWS Lambda pricing. Okay, so there are like ARM64. Now you see this. Okay, so if you use x86 or ARM, so like this, fine. So first 6 billion GB second. Okay, so what is this? So you know when you so what is duration? So duration is your Lambda function is started, okay, and your Lambda function is stopped. Okay, so this is your duration. Okay, and most of the time, okay, you aim this duration to be less than 15 seconds. Okay, so one location is like 15 seconds, but our Lambda function, it was getting finished in less than 1 second. 1 second. Okay, so it finished in less than 1 second. Like our Lambda finished in less than 1 second. So I'm just taking an example that your Lambda is 15 seconds. If you're a good coder, your application will finish in 4 to 5 seconds only. Okay, it will take only 4 to 5 seconds per invocation. So this 50 second is the default limit. Okay, if your Lambda goes beyond 50 seconds, the Lambda will try to kill it. Okay, and you can increase this limit as well. If your Lambda take more than 50 seconds, you can increase this limit, but by default it is 15 seconds. So this 15 second, this 15 second is the duration here. Okay, so you will be billed for this much per second. Okay, so per second. So let's say your application run for 24 hours. I'll copy this. I'll go to calculator. Okay, I just say into this is seconds, right? So I'll just do like the 3600, and you will be billed for this USD every day. Okay, 2 INR. Let's see what is INR. Okay, let's see this. Okay, and if I convert this to INR, sorry, my bad, 5 rupees. So every day you will be charged 5 rupees. You see the difference, right? If you will create a VM, you will be charged like 60 rupees or 70 rupees, or maybe 100 rupees. But here only you are getting charged for 5, and that when your Lambda is running all the time. Okay, you are getting requests. So your Lambda is running for like 24 hours. Then only you will get this charge. Okay, but that never happens, right? Your Lambda will finish. The other one is request. So you will be charged for $0.2 per 1 million requests. 1 million is like 10 lakh invocations. So if 10 lakh people are invoking your application code, your API code, then you will be charged for $0.2. Okay, so you can consider like $0.2 is roughly 4 rupees, I guess. Yeah, 4 rupees. So you will be charged 4 rupees for 1 million requests. And let me give you a good thing, like the first 1 million request is free for your for your Lambda. Okay, so every day you will get 1 million requests free. Okay, so you won't be charged for 1 million requests, first 1 million requests. The next anything above that, you will be charged $0.2 per 1 million request. Okay. Yep. So you see the price comparison. So if you are a web developer or you are API developer, you can always check out Lambda function to reduce the cost of infrastructure and to reduce the headache of managing the infrastructure altogether. So this is what serverless is used for. So many people have developed their application on serverless itself, and they are getting charged zero from AWS. Okay, because most of the time they are in the limit of free tier. Okay, so that concludes the AWS training. So I'm open for doubt session. So if you have any doubts, any queries, we still have like 30 minutes. Okay, so I'll take your doubts and queries. If you have any queries to AWS, you can ask me. Any question, any queries?
Hello.
Yes, Rohan. Yeah.
Actually, I had a doubt.
Yep, please.
Actually, I created an